Hi, this is Ron Huxley. Do you believe that a hug can actually help you deal with your stress? I want to show you a simple technique called the butterfly hug that will help you build a strong neuro-resilient system that is bulletproof to dealing with stress and trauma. That's either trauma that's come up from the past or even trauma that you're dealing with in the present. The butterfly hug is a modification of a tool called EMDR. Now, EMDR stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. That's a real mouthful. Eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing, or EMDR. This was developed by a psychologist by the name of Francine Shapiro and has become one of the most recognized techniques for dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder in America. EMDR utilizes bilateral stimulation, often with eye movements, hence the EM piece, that helps someone who has been traumatized or is overwhelmed by stress to deal with or desensitize them to the event that has become so stressful for them and is creating a lot of malfunctionings in their life. They also have a cognitive piece to this, which is the reprocessing. So it allows the individual to reprocess the event and change their perception or meaning that they have placed on this stressful event, either in the past or in the present. Now, that's just kind of a background. You don't really have to know that to understand how to use the butterfly hug. The butterfly hug was actually developed by an individual by the name of Lucina Artigas, and she did this work after Hurricane Pauline in Acapulco, Mexico. And what she did is she had children form a butterfly with their hands where you interlock the thumbs and then you have like wings on both sides. You then place it here on your collarbone, and then you use, instead of eye movements, you use hand movements to create a bilateral stimulation of the brain and nervous system. I'll talk about that in a second. But basically, you just tap right, left, right, left, right, left, right, in that kind of motion, tapping right here on your collarbone level. I've seen some people actually do it over here on their shoulders, and I'll show you some other modifications for this. But for the most part, it's interlocking the thumbs and then doing a tapping motion on your collarbone while closing your eyes and imagining something that is peaceful and calm. Now, this can be a real place like walking on the beach or sitting in a meadow in a forest or at home on your porch, or it could be someplace that is imagined, that feels safe, peaceful, and calm. And we do this for about 5 minutes a day, every day, building a very strong neuro-resilient system. The reason we want to do this is that a lot of us, as a result of trauma and stress that have occurred in our life, have developed depression, anxiety, a lot of fears and phobias. We have become very emotionally reactive. Have an anger, trigger anger, where we are immediately fly off the handle when an event occurs, or people frustrate us, or whenever we're told no. A lot of children who've gone through a lot of victimization and abuse and neglect tend to be very reactive, impulsive, and or want to control everything around them. All of these things have events that occurred in our life, stresses in the past and stressors in the present, affect our nervous system. And as a result of the constant pressures of stress on our lives, we will become very reflexive, in that we will operate in a very way called primitive reflexes. We will bypass our thinking brain and our brainstem and our emotional centers of our brain in the middle of our brain, which are closely connected to our memory and learning centers of the brain, ironically, will bypass the thinking processes of cause and effect to react. And the reason we have to do this is to keep ourselves safe. Because when you're stepping out in front of a car, the last thing you want to do at that moment is to process the logistics and the timing and the problems that might occur. And you don't want to think at that moment. You want to move, you want to react. So you jump out of the way of the car. That's where your brain is designed to take a primitive reflex and immediately get you to stay safe. The problem in our society is that we tend to continue to react to stressors that are always on us. We either have overscheduled children, we have overscheduled lives, we're constantly dealing with stressors in our environment, we have social media coming at us from every which direction. There's so much information and pressure that is occurring on us in our life that our brains are constantly firing off with this primitive reflex to protect us. Now, the intentions are good. It's doing exactly what the brain is designed to do, which is to protect us from harm. But in essence, it's lying to us. It's telling us that there are dangers when there aren't any dangers. It's causing us to react in extreme, emotionally reactive ways when it's unnecessary to do so. When you prolong this over time, what happens for an adult is you get several addictive behaviors to try to cope with this overwhelming sense of stress and emotional reactivity. You'll see people, both children and adults, who become impulsive and distractible and will make poor decisions. And that includes poor decisions on relationships, poor decisions with money. And as you imagine, you have a lot of cultural, legal, financial kind of problems as a result of not using your thinking brain and operating from an emotional, reactive, or primitive reflex point of view. Not a good way to live life. But a lot of us do this, and either in an extreme way or in a minor way, just because we are dealing with so many stressors in our life. If this is you, or you're somebody you know, what I want you to do is to begin to use this butterfly hug. And do this for about 5 minutes every day. Not when you're in a stressful situation. You can, but ideally you would do this when you are already in a calm place, or that you can begin to think of something calm and peaceful, and you build into your nervous system neuroresilience. Now, this is my word, neuroresilience. It may be used somewhere else, but I'm going to claim it at this point, because what I use when I'm working with clients is to help them build a neuroresilience. Trauma makes you overreactive, primitive reflexes to stressful negative events. What happens is then we become oriented towards those negative events, and we tend to see the negative in every situation, which gives us negative mindsets and negative attitudes and negative interactions, and we will brush off or ignore or avoid the positive events that occur in our life. And so we're not able to turn things around from a negative to a positive direction. Utilizing a positive experience into your nervous system 5 minutes a day will allow, and you can do it more often than that, will allow you to build a stronger positive neural network, i.e. neuroresilience, so that you can pay attention to positive events that come your way and be able to say, my whole day wasn't catastrophic. There are a lot of good things that happened this day, and a lot of things that didn't happen so well, but I'm focusing on the things that did work well. And also, what's really important here is that you start focusing on positive identification of who you are as a person versus your negative things. Because when negative things happen to us, we tend to think we're negative or bad people. When broken things happen and broken relationships and disasters happen and catastrophes happen around us, we begin to think that we are a catastrophe, that we're broken and damaged in some way. This is a very negative mindset that's very hard to overcome and takes a lot of work to retrain our thinking. Utilizing the butterfly hug, you will be able to, on a neurological level, on a non-cognitive level, compete against this primitive reflex, your emotional, impulsive reactivity, and build a strong neural network. One of the reasons I believe that there's this crossing over the hands is that it allows us to move across the midline. If you were to imagine an invisible line going down the middle of your body, and then you separate yourself from left and right sides of the body, that corresponds to how your brain operates, and that you have a left and a right hemisphere. You have between those two hemispheres, you have a corpus callosum, or these nerve fibers that go in between that communicate to either side of your body. So your right side of your brain controls the left side of your body, the left side of your brain controls the right side of your body. The only organ on your body that is responsible for both hemispheres in terms of muscular movement is your eye, just kind of as a side note. So by crossing midline, we force both sides of the brain to operate in concert together. This is very important. We add on to that element imagining a calm, safe place. That fires up the lobes in the back of our brain, which are responsible for visualization, and the middle of our brain responsible for that fight or flight, emotional reactivity, memory and learning part of our brain, and provides a sense of calmness. It also, because we're tapping on acupressure points, which are right here in your collarbone, you have several of them throughout your body, but by pressing on this collarbone acupressure point, what you are doing is that you are sending a signal via the vagus nerve into your brainstem to say, basically, to your brain and to your body, chill out. Our nervous system, in a very short, simple way, has a gas and a brake. Trauma and stress, anxiety, constant problems in our life is like pushing on the brake, going downhill, and I'm pushing on the gas, going downhill, and not pushing on the brake or having no brakes to stop you. Your body is going to hit a crash. One way or the other, you're going to crash in your relationships, finances, etc. Or just physiologically, you're going to break down. So what we want to do is we want to employ the brakes in our nervous system, and that is done by tapping on these acupressure points that will then send a signal via what's called the vagus nerve to our parasympathetic system, which is our brakes on our nervous system, which will then communicate to our nervous system to send signals to throughout the brain, left and right, front and back, top and bottom. Everything's firing, everything's with the intention of completely chilling out. Doing this over time will build this experience so that when stress comes at you, you would then be very familiar with a positive, relaxed state of being and be able to push on the brakes. You won't hit the gas pedal even harder when stress comes at you, and you will be able to decrease your stress level significantly in a much quicker way. You'll be able to focus on learning and not just a fight or flight reaction in your brain. You will be able to make good judgments instead of acting impulsively. And you'll begin, most importantly, to identify yourself as a good person despite the bad things that happen to you. So you can see why this acting in concert with all the different levels of the brain and the body are important to build a very strong neural resilient system. So what I want you to do is I want you to practice this butterfly hug 5 minutes a day, thinking about something calm and peaceful. If you're doing this with your child, you want to set them on your lap while they're facing forward, and you can put your arms around them and tapping on their collarbone or on the sides of their arms or on their shoulders. And you not only have the ability to create that bilateral stimulation for the child, but you also have the physical closeness, and that heartbeats will become in sync and the breathing will become in sync, and you have the warmth and the physical closeness. I mean, I have yet to see a child who I've had do this with their parent here in my office that didn't immediately just go conk out because they were becoming immediately relaxed when doing this. It's a very powerful technique for a parent and child to do together. Some alternatives to this, as I already mentioned, in addition to tapping on the acupressure points of your collarbone, you can do this on your shoulder. Some people prefer to do it this way, left, right. And that's acceptable to do as well. You can also do this on your knees. You can't see my knees, but you can tap on your knees, left, right, with your arms crossed over, right arm on your left knee, left hand on your right knee, and tap. That's useful for a lot of students who have test anxiety, and when they're in school, they can put their hands under their desk and do this tapping motion. Nobody can see, just like you can't see what I'm doing now. And if anyone did even see, they would think they're just kind of like rocking out to a beat in their own head. So no one really thinks it's weird. This might come across as weird, but I have a lot of people who do it regardless because it's so helpful. Another technique that you can use that incorporates bilateral stimulation in crossing over the midline is to reaching over and grabbing both of the ears and just providing a real light, soft massaging of your earlobes crossing over while thinking of a calm, restful place. So all these techniques are useful for building a very neuro-resilient system, help you deal with stress and negativity in your life, and allow you to enhance learning and decrease emotional reactivity in as simple as 5 minutes a day. Thank you very much.